that in today's type of subjectivity, we effectively no longer have a traditional patriarchal master figure. And again, I'm not saying anything extra new here. This was known, for example, already to Horkheimer and Adorno way back in the 1930s, where in their excellent analysis, Horkheimer in Autorität und Familie, Authority and Family, Adorno in his analysis of structure of fascist propaganda, emphasized that the totalitarian leader, Hitler, Stalin, these are not master figures. But nonetheless, my problem is that, I hope we agree here, that of course this post-Oedipal, postmodern subjectivity, infinitely plastic subjectivity, you reconstruct yourself all the time and so on, that this one fits perfectly today's relations of domination. That even if you don't have master in this classical sense, oppression can be even worse. This is, I accept this. And furthermore, I think I repeat myself a little bit here that the last time I was here, I already developed this, namely that we have regimes today which we would all have agreed are, in some naive sense, extremely totalitarian, and so on, but they are not the regimes of the patriarchal master. And there was a book written by a guy called, I forgot his Christian name, I'm sorry, it's Myers, M-Y something, called The Cleanest Race. I think, again, that I repeat myself a little bit, but now let's make the point about today's North Korea. The guy did something pretty interesting. He lived as a journalist in Korea and used North Korea and used a little bit of freedom that he had to go a little bit. He was allowed to, I don't know how, to countryside. He looked not at the propaganda that North Korea addresses to the West, but at, as it were, propaganda for aborigines, their own people there, and discovered that it's absolutely not, that all this bullshit about Korea being deeply embedded in old Confucian society and so on, no, it's strictly matriarchal. And it's a wonderful, very simple book. But, for example, he draws attention to the fact that with all Stalinist retouching and so on, if you look at the official portraits of the leader, the old two ones, now it's different, who knows what will come out of this young guy, Kim Il-sung and Kim Jong-il, the official portraits don't try to obliterate, diminish their tummy, stomach, their stockiness. It's even emphasized. Like, there are some almost embarrassing portraits of Kim Il-sung where you see his stomach and even relatively strong for a man, breasts and so on. So this guy went deeply into it and discovered that the entire state metaphorics is party and leader are mothers. And he gives some wonderful, maybe you know them, sorry, examples. I don't have now time to quote them all. For example, the most popular North Korean party song is dedicated to the Communist Party as mother. And it's an absolutely obscene song. That we Korean children, people are like children sucking milk from the big breasts of party, our mother, and we will never abandon your breasts. We need your breasts to survive. And then this guy provides another promise, another wonderful example. He did something ingeniously simple. He looked into the latest edition of the Korean official, like dictionary of Korean language, and looked at the two entries, mother, father. The entry mother is over 1 page. It goes into mother, all the definitions. First, the biological mother of a child, then metaphoric, mother of the family who takes care all of them, and then, yes, as you expect, in a larger sense, the party is the mother of the people, blah, blah, with all the examples. And then father, 1 line. The man who helped the mother to become a mother. I mean, and then in a more subtle analysis even, he claims, did you notice how Kim Jong-il, who now died, the middle leader, how he usually had some strange, ordinary wind jacket, and his hair was kind of a, no? That he claims that this is the typical image of a Korean ordinary women who has these mass-produced plastic jackets and spends hours waiting for food and so on and so on, that it's again a subtle maternal identification. Now, I am definitely not buying here the standard patriarchal bullshit advocated, unfortunately, by some Lacanians like Pierre Legendre in France, according to which, oh, we should return to paternal authority. If you want more power to the women, you get North Korea and so on. No, I'm not saying this. All I'm saying is something much more. Of course, the first thing to note would be here that the obvious thing, which one can learn also from old histories that you know. If you are precisely a woman, beware of societies where you have a mother goddess ruling you, Then actual women are usually even more oppressed than in a standard patriarchal society. So, of course, this mother is a male myth. Of course, at the de facto level, male domination is absolute in North Korea. This guy reports on how even what you get in some communist countries where, as a rule, I remember from my youth and reading books, like to show how nonetheless we take care of women's rights, usually you have 3 ministries which were in socialist countries more or less reserved for women, They are, of course, the soft one where there is not real power. It's education, health, and culture, They can be left to women, but never the serious ministries. So again, of course, this is a mystified knowledge, but all I'm saying is nonetheless this simple fact that, and this is what was nicely formulated already by Horkheimer, that with all the oppressiveness, the traditional paternal authority nonetheless gave you a kind of a support within, for example, Protestant logic to oppose yourself to external authority. It's a great, I'm saying this shamelessly, a great civilizatory achievement to have in the ruling ideological structure a space for radical opposition, so that you can say officially, as it were, that it's my right to oppose society is wrong and so on. And here, patriarchal authority can, up to a point, play a positive role. But let me now make a step further. I nonetheless think, and Lacan is here much better than Badiou and Rudinesco, that this is an irreversible process. What is going on today is, I think, the final decline of the figure of the master as the symbolic authority and so on and so on. I think they are simply too nostalgic here, Rudinesco and Badiou. No, we cannot return. What happens today with whatever we call it, postmodern capitalism, is that the symbolic authority is fatally wounded. We cannot return to it. So, and I find especially strange from Badiou to advocate this return to the master, because, Badiou likes to emphasize, for example, in his book on the communist hypothesis, that the only politics can be serious politics, can be the communist politics. All others are just pragmatic opportunism and so on and so on. Yeah, but I claim that we can only talk seriously about emancipatory politics if the master is not the ultimate horizon of our social life. If we cannot imagine a society which is not held together by a master figure, but in a different way, then we can pack our luggage and just say, okay, let's play pragmatic politics and so on and so on. So again, the challenges are great here. I think that in this debate, Badiou versus postmodern, fluid, plural, multitude figures of authority, I think that both poles are wrong. the structure of a master as well as this polymorphous multitude structure, it doesn't function. There is a challenge here. And there are some hints in Lacan or somewhere that you can have a social link which is not founded on the figure of the master. Next point, now I come more to criticism, would be, for which I'm often attacked, would be violence. That it's quite funny for me to read about myself, that I'm secretly fascinated by violence, that I'm dreaming about some, I don't know, final explosion where it will be the purifying end of the world, whatever you want. No, again, I think that apropos violence, first one should demystify the problem of violence. In what sense? One should reject claims that the 20th century communism used too much excessive murderous violence, and that we should be careful not to fall into this trap again. I mean, of course, in a way, this is true. But I claim that it's not the right way to approach what went wrong with the 20th century communism. Violence is not directly the cause of it. You know, it's not to say, as some naive Marxists do say. And somebody showed to me a book, just the quote, I didn't read it, of course, of Tariq Ali, The Idea of Communism. You know, the book which was published 1 year after the Conference on Communism, and our book, ready, which was finished earlier, appeared only a year later. So you can make your own thoughts about it. How is it that a Verso author, the moment he heard about our project, The Idea of Communism, wrote quickly another book with the same title as an answer? Okay, there he says the tragedy of communism was that they forgot about democracy. They didn't, no, I claim, of course, it was terrifying, recourse to violence. But to resolve the problem, one should precisely not directly say, oh, we should take care of, or we should have taken care of violence, what, prohibit such violence. No, the true problem is what was wrong in the communist project, the way it was formulated in the 20th century, what was wrong in the project as such, so that the only way to survive, he had to take recourse to violence. Violence, as is always the case, was already an answer to a certain deadlock. So, as I put it in my book, far from celebrating violence, I think that if we mean what we usually mean by violence, direct physical violence and so on, violence is always, from individual to collective level, a sign of impotence, basically. I mean, this is an old story, you know it. If your father beats you, slaps you, it may hurt you, but it all, as a rule, ruins his authority. The fact that the father slaps you means he was really impotent. He lacked proper authority. And it's the same socially. If you look at all the big explosions of violence, Hitler, Stalin, and so on. For example, what is arguably the greatest violence in Soviet Union? The late 20s, early 30s, the forced collectivization. This violence was one big proof that they were not able to approach properly the problem of peasants, farmers, collectivization, agriculture, and so on and so on. So again, it's stupid to say communists neglected the problem of violence or neglected the importance of democracy. No, this neglect is not simply the last cause. It's a reaction to some deeper failure. Now I will try to answer. I'm sorry for a relatively long quote. One of the critics of myself, it was formulated somewhere, I will even not quote the author because by mistake I dropped that reference. It doesn't really matter. It's a very interesting criticism of me because it is kind of a reaction to my refutal of the first